Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Jenn Pike, your host. I'm a medical exercise specialist and functional medicine diagnostic nutritionist, and I specialize in women's health and hormones. And today we are talking all about belly fat and 6 tips on how you can avoid belly fat and weight gain in perimenopause, which can be a big struggle for women. And where I understand that our bodies are going to change as we get older. That is, it's a part of life that I think has been very difficult for us as women to embrace and to understand, because every media outlet and magazine and advertisement that you see is really giving the message that you need to stay thin, you need to stay the same, you need to improve like, an aged wine over time that only gets better. And it can feel really difficult and challenging when you're already going through something like perimenopause or menopause. And there's a lot of changes happening in your body. And you can feel like you are still trying to eat healthy and you're exercising and you're trying to optimize your sleep and you feel like you're trying to do everything right and you're putting on weight. And oftentimes at this time of our life, it's weight that's happening around the belly, which makes it very uncomfortable in terms of trying to hide this in clothes that we are wearing, or putting it on around the bra strap and the upper arms and in through the face. As somebody who has been coaching and working with women for almost 30 years, I have a lot of compassion and understanding about this because I've seen it firsthand in my practice, where women really aren't changing much, but their body feels like it's changing quite a bit. And the area that they are really struggling with from a confidence and a self-esteem place is in through the abdomen and the belly. So I hope the 6 tips that I give you today help you. But I am going to tell you right out of the gates, well, first of all, make sure you subscribe here so you don't miss any of these videos moving forward. But the second is that there is no quick fix. There is no one food that you should be eating, or one exercise that you should be doing, or one tea that you should be drinking, or one detox that you should be signing up for that is going to just poof, make the belly fat disappear. So the first thing is I want you to understand that, because we can be really hard on ourselves as women and send ourselves down a rabbit hole of a lot of frustration, a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted energy, and not feeling like we're getting the results. So the things I'm going to talk to you about today are things you've probably heard before, but maybe I'm going to deliver it to you in a way that it's going to, sink in just a little deeper and get you to understand that if you can do some of these things with consistency and time, I promise you, you will start to see a shift and a change. Even for myself, when I was around 42, 43, I started to notice some body composition changes. And I work out for a living. I teach classes for a living. I do this for a living. And I was like, what is going on? Why do I have this new roll that is happening on my abdomen? And again, I hadn't changed anything that I was eating. I hadn't changed anything I was doing. Life around me was changing. There was a lot more stress happening in those couple of years and things that were outside of my control, but my body was changing. My thyroid was changing. My adrenal health was changing. My gut microbiome was changing. My ratios of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and DHEA were changing. My cortisol production and how I utilize cortisol was changing. My body's relationship with glucose and insulin and leptin and ghrelin, all of those things were changing. Now, nobody wrote me a letter to let me know that. I didn't get a text message that said, hey, Jen, just so you know, all of these things are changing. That's just what was happening naturally behind the scenes and is continuing to happen because I'm 45 years old and I'm in perimenopause. But it's not one of those things where it's like, I'm 45 years old, so it's just going to happen. I might as well just lie down and let it watch it. Like there's nothing I can do. There's no truth in that. There's a lot that we can actually do. We just can't grip it. So first and foremost, and you're probably so tired of hearing this, but here we go. You've got to balance your blood sugar. When we think about how our body manages glucose and manages insulin and the ways in which our body is supported in terms of having calibrated blood sugar, meaning you feel satiated from your meals, you don't have crazy cravings, you're not feeling dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, you're not having these big energy dips, you're not craving lots of stimulants and going for more coffee and more alcohol and always looking for that something sweet. These are big markers that are going to let you know your blood sugar is not stable. And it's really challenging to have strong cognition, so brain health, if you don't have stable blood sugar. It's very difficult to have good quality sleep if you don't have good blood sugar. Really hard to have the level of performance and results from your workout and recovery that you hope for, and really difficult to manage your metabolic health and your waistline. So Stabilize your blood sugar. Eat balanced meals that have a good source of protein. Aim to get about 30 grams of good quality protein at every single meal. Be careful at this time in your life because so many of us have been taught that peanut butter and cheese and nuts and seeds are all your best sources of protein. They're actually fat sources. And so, when you look at a tablespoon of peanut butter, there's probably 1 gram of protein, but 9 grams of fat. Now, does that mean you don't ever go and have the nut butter? No, but you're not going and having spoonfuls and spoonfuls and being like, I'm getting my protein in. You're not going and having, a quarter of a brick of cheddar cheese and be like, I'm getting my protein in. No, you're not. You are getting in a very small amount, but at a higher ratio of fat. And unfortunately, even though fat in and of itself is not going to make us fat, when we are having a surplus of one type of macronutrient, and we're not getting in one of the key ones that our body needs at this time in our life, like our protein, we're also not getting in the appropriate amount of amino acids, right? Essential amino acids that our body requires, like leucine, in order to create that muscle protein synthesis. So if you're not just trying to lose belly fat and weight, but you want to actually feel firmer, and we tend to call it tone, but you want to build muscle, you want to feel lean in your body, you've got to eat the adequate protein sources. So making sure you're getting enough protein, getting enough fiber in. Some of that belly fat can actually be bloat. It could be constipation. There's huge gut changes that go on in your body at any hormonal transition in your life, whether it's postpartum, perimenopause, and postmenopause. So you're getting enough easy to digest fiber. Maybe you need a digestive enzyme to help with that fiber. Are you pooping regularly? This is a huge one. And this actually goes into tip number 2, which is you need to investigate your gut health. So do you have anything like parasites or candida or H. pylori? Do you have reflux? Do you have really bad constipation where you're like pooping deer pellet? You're not going for days at a time. Or the opposite end of the spectrum where everything you eat goes through you. You're having multiple bowel movements a day and not good quality. Because you can have 2 or 3 poops a day that are of good quality where they're formed. They leave the body with ease. They don't require a lot of wiping, but if you've got the opposite happening, you owe it to your health and to your body to investigate what's going on with your gut. Because it doesn't matter how many lunges or deadlifts or jump squats you do. If there's something going on with the gut, that is what you have to start to actually work on in order to see and feel the difference in through your waistline. And then secondary to that is looking at what's going on with your adrenals and what's going on with your thyroid. Outside of being postpartum after having a baby, perimenopause and menopause is the biggest period of time where as women, we are at a higher risk and vulnerability for there being health issues with our thyroid. Oftentimes the thyroid is getting more sluggish. Our body's ability to not only produce our thyroid hormones, but convert them into usable forms are starting to become downgraded. So it's not happening in the way that it did when we were younger. And again, you could have changed nothing, but these things are changing behind the scenes. So getting a full blood panel done with your practitioner and looking at all of the markers. I actually have a whole video here all about your thyroid markers, and I have a free blood guide. You go to jenpike.com/freebies, and you'll see you can download that. And I walk you through with a complete video, everything to understand about your blood work. Number 3 is incorporating strength training. So I did just talk about, lunges and deadlifts and said that if you've got gut issues going on, you can't just go and exercise your way to less belly fat if we have inflammation. And that's true. However, you having more muscle on your body is going to help your body overall. So when you're hearing everybody talk about metabolic health, this isn't just referencing your metabolism. Your metabolic health is essentially your whole body health. But when we're looking at it from a metabolic standpoint, we're looking at it from cell health. We're looking at it from, honestly, I'm going to say these 2 words together and don't take them how you hear them, like anti-aging. So I'm not talking about fillers and Botox and all of those different things so that we don't look like we're aging. What I mean is that like our cellular health, our mitochondrial health, how our body is hardwired and functions from the inside out, we want to slow down that aging process as much as possible. Like, look, I sit here in front of you. I've got gray hair. You can tell I have 0 injections, fillers, or anything like that at 45. Those aren't the kind of things I'm talking about. I'm talking about living our lifestyle in a way where we are pro-aging. Having more muscle on your body is going to help you do that. Now, the message out there for women right now is everybody pick up the heaviest things and just lift heavy weights. Yes, and I often joke and say, I'm going to start another podcast. It's going to be called Yes and. So yes, we need to lift heavy weights. We need to be strong and powerful. We need to choose strong over skinny. And we need to make sure that we're not outsourcing and sidestepping the needs of our body in order to try and hit a vanity or physical goal. And what I mean by that is that if you have been feeling fatigued, if your adrenal function is not optimal, your nervous system has been under a tremendous amount of stress. You've just been going through it and life has been lifing. It may not be the best time to try and go at the most vigorous workout. And that could be heavy lifting all the time, which is very taxing to your CNS, to your central nervous system. It could be doing things like circuits and Tabatas and boot camps and Orange Theory and CrossFit and spin class and things that are wonderful exercise-wise, but too much of any one thing, and it can be taxing on your system. So build yourself up to that. I want you to do strength training. I would love if you could do some form of resistance and strength training 2, 3, max 4 times a week right now would be amazing. I'd also love if you could walk every day. Incredible for your bone health, amazing in terms of being low impact but effective at helping to lose some body fat and help with that belly fat that you have going on. Incredible for your mental health, and it's free. All you need is your body and to get outside, or if you have a treadmill, to get on top of that. Okay, so we want to be focusing on building muscle. The other thing that I love for women at this time of their life, between 35 and 55, is the strength training and the walking, but I love yoga. I love Pilates, and I love a little bit of bar in there. There's a class I actually teach that's called The Body, and it's a signature class. It's only 45 minutes, and it blends yoga, bar, and Pilates together. It's inside my online exercise studio Synced. We'll make sure to link it up here for you below. But if you go to jennpike.com/synced, you'll see how you can join inside of that membership and do live classes with me and my team every week, as well as tap into all of the workout videos in our complete library that you have access to on demand. All right, let's bring it back in here now. Okay, so number 4, this is really looking at your hormonal balance overall. So as I said, my body, just like your body, there are a ton of cascading things that are happening behind the scenes. And here's the thing about perimenopause and menopause, nothing is static. Meaning it's not linear. It's not like now all of a sudden all of our hormones are doing the exact same thing, especially perimenopause. Our hormones are going through just a little bit of chaos. And so you have times when you actually move through what looks like more estrogen dominant phases. And that is simply because of the ratio of your estrogen being more abundant than your progesterone. You could have periods of time where you are in a higher testosterone phase. You've got, or the opposite where you have too little testosterone. When we talk about, again, like glucose management and cortisol response in our body, there's just a lot that's happening naturally, and our life is just poking the bear. So if we're not eating healthy, we're eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of processed fats and oils, we're having too much alcohol, too much caffeine, we're not sleeping, we're just giving ourselves to everyone else. There's no time that we take back for ourselves. We don't even know if we're breathing throughout the day because we're so hyper focused on all of the things and the stuff and the people. That is going to wear and tear your system down faster. So it's really taking back the ownership of your body, right? Like, we know this. We get what there's one of us. There's one of our bodies, and it is the most radical thing that you can do, is take responsibility for your health. You don't have to change everything right away. If you came to me, and I don't take clients one-on-one anymore, but if you came to me, I'm just going to give you kind of an example here, and you said, like, Jen, I have like 10 pounds I want to lose, and I feel like it's all around my waist. I'd be like, amazing. Let's dial that in over the next 10 to 12 months. Now, some people are like, I'm sorry, what? There's programs that I can do where I can drop the 10 pounds in 30 days. You totally can. I tend to attract women who are already working out, who are already eating healthy, who are already doing a lot of the things. And when it's your hormones that are changing behind the scenes, it can oftentimes take a little bit longer. It can take working with somebody and running complete labs. So looking at blood, running a gut test. When we were talking earlier about investigating your gut, running a stool test, running a mineral test, so doing a hair test, an HTMA, running a dried urinary test for comprehensive hormones. All of these things can be very beneficial, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure you're working with a practitioner who can actually understand and break down your results so that you can understand what's going on and then put a healthy protocol together for you. So whether we're talking about this in terms of working with someone to dial in all of the macro and micronutrients, right, to help us put together a plan for our nutrition, or or we're, working with somebody who's putting a supplement protocol together for us. We know a lot of the foundationals as women that we need at this time: vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3, usually a good quality digestive enzyme or probiotic, and a good quality B complex are oftentimes what's needed. But sometimes you may need additional support. You may need things that aren't like right here, kind of in your peripheral, that someone else will see and notice and say, hey, I actually think you need a little bit more B6. I actually think we need to bring in some N-L-cysteine, some Nakin. Hey, I think we need to bring in some, whatever it might be. I don't want to keep saying supplements because I don't need you to go and have a deeper supplement cupboard. I need you to understand that being educated, working with somebody, going into a program that teaches you is really what is going to just shift things for you. Shift it in a way where you're going to understand on a deeper level. You're going to know how to advocate for yourself inside of these appointments with your practitioner and so much more. Now, when we talk about things beyond supplements and we look at things like could be bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, you may be at a time where you need to start to look at using estrogen, right? So estradiol and progesterone and some testosterone and some DHEA, depending on where you live in the world. Like if you're in Canada like me, you're gonna have a very difficult time working with your natural health provider to get your testosterone and to get your DHEA. You're going to have to go down the medical doctor route and find a functional medicine doctor who can prescribe. If you're in the US, it's going to be easier for those things. It may also not be bioidentical hormone replacement therapy that you're using right out of the gates. It could be homeopathy. There could be Ayurvedic protocols and principles that you're using. You may work with a Chinese medicine practitioner and use different herbs or acupuncture and tonics. There's so many different things that we can be using, and I don't want to overwhelm you, but I do want to bring this to light to help you to understand that there's not going to be one pill in a bottle that's going to take your belly fat away. You can take berberine until you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean that it's going to go and burn up your belly fat. Again, it's about learning more about your body and dialing in on the things that you need to be doing. And sometimes, ladies, do you know what this means? It means you have to stop doing some of the things you've been doing. It means you need to cut your supplement stack in half. It means that you need to be shifting the ratios of your protein and your fat and your carbs. I will tell you what started to shift my belly fat for me: decreasing my fat, increasing my carbohydrates. That would help me with my lifts. Like I felt so much better. It helped me with my sleep. And even though I do this for a living, I still had the little microphone in the back of my head going, you sure you should eat that many carbs? You sure you should eat that many carbs? It's crazy how we have been brainwashed as a society. So just lean into it. I'm not saying, it's like, oh, yay, carbohydrate day, go and eat a whole bunch of donuts. That's not what I mean. I mean, go and have some squash. Go and roast up some acorn squash or spaghetti squash. Go and have some sweet potatoes. Go have potatoes, white potatoes. Go have some white rice. Go and have that with your protein and just notice how good you feel. Number 5 is managing stress and cortisol levels. So I've just talked about this a little bit here, but I think it goes without saying that the greater the level of stress we have going on, which could be stress that you're aware of. So it could be physical stress. You have inflammation, you have an autoimmune illness, like you've got something you're managing physically in your body. It could be mental, emotional stress. I'm the sandwich generation, and you probably are too if you're listening to this. I'm in between aging parents and growing teens. And I'm worried about my mom and dad who are doing well, but I still worry about them. It's like all of a sudden you become like the mother for your parents. And then I have my children who are not children anymore, and they are teens and growing and changing. And it's like people say little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. The worries I have about my kids now are so different from when they were little. When they were little, I just wanted them to like sleep, just sleep and try not to get sick all the time. That's all I wanted. Now I'm like, who's your social group? How are you doing in school? What's going on in work? Are you seeing anybody? Where is it that you're actually going? Are you driving safe? What time are you coming home? Waking up in the middle of the night and being like, did they come home? It's a whole new ball game. And so you have to understand that, I can go and take lots of adaptogens to help my body manage the stress. But some of the things I just mentioned, I can't control that. I'm not going to stop my children from growing and developing and moving through these stages of their life because it's uncomfortable for me. I can't helicopter my parents' health and life because it's uncomfortable for me. You picking up what I'm laying down, reading my mail? Okay, so I'm just trying to give you this example. But our cortisol levels, cortisol is a beautiful hormone. We don't want to dampen cortisol. We want to help to actually support and regulate our cortisol. When we have an increased amount of cortisol all the time, like you're just chasing down the tiger inside your body, This is very catabolic. It's going to wear down and tear down your system. It definitely can impact how you manage your glucose and your insulin. It definitely can impact belly fat around the waist and honestly just like drain you energetically. So it pays to pay attention to what is going on with your stress levels. So can you set better boundaries? Can you get yourself to bed at a good time? I've done a whole video around sleep on here to listen to. Can you create a wind down routine? Can you start to read? What brings you joy? Seriously, ladies, what brings you joy? And are you doing that thing? And I can remember at a time in my life when someone asked me that, I just wanted to like burst into tears because I was like, I don't even know anymore. Unless I'm working or I'm mothering or I'm like doing something for someone else. I was like, those are my hobbies, working, doing something for other people and helping them or doing things for my children and my family. And I was just like dumbfounded because I'm teaching women all the time about, do things that light you up and light your soul on fire and go and have your hobbies. Then I was like, I do not have a hobby. Working out is not a hobby, Jen. And I had to go and discover, I had to rediscover books. I picked up pickleball. I'm not very good, but I think it's fun. I had to, I got back out on the ski hills this year. Also, not such a fan of that in BC. Those are some damn big mountains. I think I'm going to take some lessons, but it's going and doing these things and like rediscovering parts of ourselves that deserve to be reclaimed and deserve to be honored. Massive difference in your stress levels, my friends. And we know what's amazing? Joy is like this barometer in our body that when it starts to increase, we actually have less inflammation. We have better sleep. Our libido can come back. We're just a nicer person. So those are some things to think about as well. And then optimizing sleep for fat loss. As I said, I've done an entire video on this that you can go and watch, but some key levels here is that really crappy sleep is going to impact your weight and specifically your waist. Why? Because it is going to dysregulate your leptin and your ghrelin relationship. So we know that poor sleep increases our cravings, it lowers our energy, and it disrupts those hunger satiation hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So optimizing your sleep is really ground zero. It is so important. And it starts at the beginning of the day. If you stabilize your blood sugar, you will have better sleep. You will also decrease hot flashes and night sweats because you're not going to have a lot of those, highs and lows with your blood sugar that'll impact adrenal function and that release of cortisol. The other thing is that, the timing of sleeping. So I share this all the time. I'm at a time in my life now where I aim to be in bed by 9:30 at the latest. If the lights get shut off at 10, I'm like, oh my God. I'm up early. I'm waking up typically 6 a.m. nowadays. I gave up the 5 and 5:30 a.m. times. It just doesn't work for me in my life anymore. I want to get good quality sleep. I understand the impact of that. And so either getting yourself to bed a half an hour earlier or staying in bed a half an hour later, you are talking days extra of sleep by the end of the month. And you're talking almost an entire extra month of sleep by the end of the year. Remember this, right? Small hinges swing big doors. So we just think that the little things don't matter. And I'm telling you, the little things are always the big things. The little things are always the big things. So really dial in on that sleep, pay attention to some of the things we've talked about today, go and find the video on here. We'll see if we can actually link it up down below on helping you to optimize your sleep. And I'm going to give you a bonus one here. It's not my favorite for everyone, but I always get asked about it. So I'm going to just talk for one hot minute here. This is number 7, which is a bonus, which is about intermittent fasting. I would say at this stage and window for women between 35 and 55, definitely 40 to 55, I'm not a huge fan of long-term intermittent fasting and done in what would be considered to be a very traditional way of fasting for 16 hours and feasting or eating for 8 hours and done around the clock. I think there's been some good research on this. I've interviewed Dr. Mindy Pelz, and you can go read her book, Fasting Like a Girl, that talks about cyclical fasting. Here's what I'll tell you clinically I have discovered in all the years that I've been doing this, in teaching the Hormone Project with, thousands of women around the world, in teaching the Perimenopause Project, is that most women tend to do well 12 by 12. So they don't eat for 12 hours a day and they open their eating window for a 12-hour time of the day. What does that look like on a clock? It would mean that if you finished eating your dinner at 7 at night, you're not having your breakfast until 7 in the morning. That's a 12 by 12. It's beautiful. You get a couple hours where you're not eating before bed to really, this is another cue to have a better sleep. Try not to eat for a few hours before you go to sleep. Not tons, just like 2 hours before bed. If it's like 4 hours and 5 hours and you keep stretching it, you may not have a great sleep. You may wake up between 2 and 4 because your body's like, excuse me, we're hungry. Can you please get us something to eat to pick up this glucose? Right? You may wake up at 4:30 in the morning and not be able to get back to sleep because you ate at 4:30 p.m. So why don't you move your dinner just a couple hours before bed? You know, if you're trying to get to bed around 9:30, eat that dinner somewhere between like 6:30 and 7 o'clock. 2.5, 3 hours. The 14 by 10, I guess it would be that, like, let's say you eat dinner. This is more so kind of my routine. And I don't do this intentionally. It's just my life. And I have for a long time. When people started to talk about intermittent fasting, I was like, I guess I'm already doing that. I typically am finished eating dinner around 6 at night. And I don't have breakfast until around 8 in the morning. Now, why is that my routine? We eat dinner around 6 in this house. We clean up. We go for our walk after dinner. We might sit and watch a show, or we're just kind of chatting, puttering around. I do my bed routine, go to bed. I wake up usually at 6 in the morning. I teach 3-4 mornings a week at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm teaching at 6:30, and I'll always add in some type of an electrolyte, essential amino acids into my water. And sometimes I'll drink a naked shake while I'm training. If it's going to be a harder class, like when I'm teaching my best butt ever, I actually have more nutrients in what I'm drinking while I'm teaching. It's just more challenging. And then I come upstairs, and in that like 30 to 60 minute range. So typically I come upstairs, my husband's sitting on, the chair with his coffee. I make a matcha with some collagen and my mushrooms, not psilocybin, my Aversio adaptogen mushrooms, and we sit and chill. And I'll drink that over 20 minutes. And then I go and I make my meal. And usually I'm eating at 8 o'clock. So that's kind of just my routine. For me, it hasn't served me extending these windows. Number one, I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm trying to build muscle. And so I find for me that if I try to shrink the windows, I don't get enough food in. What I see in my clients is that if they're shrinking the windows, they're also not getting enough food in. So not getting enough calories. They're having a hard time hitting their protein and their carbohydrate goals. They're starving in between. And so they're grabbing quick things like nuts and nut and seed butters and cheese and quick things like that. I just don't see it to be a really healthy, sustainable way for most women. Now, if you are an intermittent fasting rock star, you're like, this changed my life, it supported me in so many ways, you keep doing it then. It's so important that you don't just hear one person like me talk about something and go, well, no, now I'm done. Your body is really brilliant, ladies. You have to try things on for size and see how they feel, okay? I hope all those tips today gave you some things to think about. You've got, this journey set out for yourself. Give yourself the next 6 to 12 months to really dial in on a lot of these habits. And I guarantee you, if every day that you wake up, you just do one positive thing for your body that you didn't do before, in 365 days, you will be a completely different person with brand new, beautiful habits. I will see you back here next time, everyone. Make sure you hit subscribe. You can post your questions below, and I'll see you back here.